I'm going to call the Cultural Council to begin. If you all could stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Savannah Carlson. Here. Rocky Graziano.
Here.
Samantha Harrington is not in. Joe Heafetz. Here. And I'm Lonnie Stevens. A couple topics that we have for discussion today. We're just going to review the number of fiscal year 24 projects that have been completed. As of right now, I think that it stands that only 2 have not been completed. There's a couple that we're still working on paperwork. There were 30 projects total, so that means that 28 have already been completed. We're going to do a quick discussion on the fiscal year 25 grant proposals. Those came in today, so those applications were due yesterday. Rocky's going to discuss his Miss Revere Beach proposal with our funding. There are some changes to the CASL system that we'll go ahead and discuss, and then we'll open it up to the public. If you also log on to the Mass Cultural Council website, then I think that you can save an Excel file there. While we're getting that queued up, just some lower level things. As of right now, I think that we have 31 applicants. And so far, we've seen a request for $189,000 $189,295. I don't know how deep we want to go into each individual thing, or if there's just any observations that you all have noticed so far taking a look at it.
We do have some repeat applicants from last year, which is great to see. I'm glad that they have used their money from last year well. There are also many City of Revere departments looking for extra grant money and funding, as well as Revere schools.
Just a reminder, I think we had 35 last year, so we're down just like by 4 proposals this year.
I think that there were only 30. I could be wrong, though. I think that we only had 30 last year. Oh, you know what? Then we had 30 yeses, that's why. So you're right. Yep, it was 35.
There are some applicants with a very large, significant grant application fee request in here, so this will prove to be a very in-depth search for us to determine where the money is going. Did we announce how much money that we were actually granted yet?
I believe that we did announce that. It's around $44,000. We will have more money given the fact that there are some encumbered funds. I don't think that we have those financials quite yet. I think that that comes out a little bit later on.
Okay.
There are a few that seem to not be necessarily associated with Revere. Does anybody pick up on that? So
Yes.
maybe we could eliminate some of those first before we go into the more detailed ones. Are there any that are listed here that are not affiliated with Revere that anybody is passionate about that maybe we should discuss, or should we make a motion to remove those from consideration?
Before we remove anything from consideration, I'd like us to go through every application in depth because they are listed in line items as to what the funding would be applied to. I would rather push them to the bottom of the priority list in terms of allocation, rather than just nixing them right away.
And the other thing is that every single grant organization or applying for grants has the right to apply to as many councils as possible, because some of their programming may overlap in their scope.
Something else that I've noticed is this year we don't have as many things online. A lot of these events seem to be live, which is nice. I know that we did mention a priority on those.
And as we said, there is a lot more from organizations in Revere themselves, which is, I think, largely kind of propelled by Steve on the cultural, he's sat in on the cultural committee meeting. He is not here today, but he sits on other mayoral committees that do cultural events within the city that could use some funding further down the line, or have put in for funding or didn't know how to put in for funding in the past.
So those grant decisions do need to be made by January, because they just came out. I think we just wanted to introduce some of those applicants, but not really go through each single one. We'll probably save that for another meeting, just because it's getting a little bit late. Can we go ahead and move on to the Revere, Miss Revere Beach proposal?
Absolutely. So, council, people out there in Revere TV land, proposing that we bring back the Miss Revere Beach, and we will have a Mr. Division as well, competition this spring, summer. The purpose of this would be to grant a young person ages 16 to 21 $1,000 I'm proposing, so 2 winners at $1,000 each. We might need to flush out some more funding, potentially for runners-up. And that $1,000 would be used for personal development. So I use the term scholarship, but that sometimes gets dicey because people assume that just means academic expenses. But that also could be application fees for people going to college. It could be personal development courses. Say someone is going to be certified as a personal trainer, yoga instructor, etc. So anything that is meant for someone to develop a skill set of theirs. Savannah, if they want to go to the Shakespeare in Lenox, right, they can go and sign up for a weekend intensive with that money. Anything that they want to use that is a developmental opportunity. So what we would look at in terms of the competition, have it at a venue like Revere High School, or I would really like it if we did it outside at the bandstand, maybe during one of our many events that are coming up. And the competitors would compete in a talent portion, 2 minutes, anything of their choice. You don't have to be talented, just have to find something entertaining to do. They would model a formal wear, an outfit that they think is special to them. It can be whatever it is that they find that to be. And they will ask they'll have a short onstage interview where they'll be asked to introduce themselves to the crowd and then answer a very simple question around their goals and visions for the city of Revere. This would be open to anyone that lives or works or goes to school in the city of Revere. And I think we would obviously have to flesh out a more detailed plan, but that is the synopsis of, I think, what I wanted to discuss today before we dove in depth. Once again, for purposes of the record, I am on the board of directors of the Miss Massachusetts Scholarship Foundation. This will not be affiliated with that, so it is therefore not an ethical conflict. So I'll pose it for any questions from the team.
Do you have a ballpark as to the total expenses of a program like this, not just the $2,000 in scholarship expenses? Because I'm thinking about other logistics as well for each proposed location. At the high school, we'd have to consider
Janitorial fees.
Things like that. And then at the bandstand, we'd also have to consider DCR, police, porta potties
Right.
set up for all of the attendees to.
Right. Well, what I was hoping to do to avoid some of the expenses would be to piggyback it off something like, say, Sandcastle Festival. If we could do it during that, because there is a lot of programming that goes on during the day. There's already a stage set up. There's already a police presence. There already are some of those logistical items. So if we were to go into that deep, I think it could get really costly. But in the past, when I've run similar programs of this size, it's usually come around, I would say 5K would probably be what we could do it for, without factoring in some of those costs. To give you context, we run the Miss Massachusetts, or we have run the Miss Massachusetts teen competition at a high school in Fall River, and those costs generally are under $5,000. And that includes janitorial, AV, and all that. So I think that would probably be, it's well below $5,000, so.
Okay, and when it comes to applicants, is there an application process? Is it anyone shows up and can participate? And I ask that for time's sake, how long is this type of event? If we are piggybacking on another event, or we're
I think
going
we-
to propose it?
I think what we would do, what I would propose is we would launch when we're ready to do this. We would start promoting it at the beginning of the year. Maybe we say we take the first 10 Miss contestants, the first 10 Mr. contestants, so a total of 20. That would be something we could probably do in well under 2 hours. Again, it's not a lot of, that we're asking them to do a very simple talent and then change it to one outfit. They're not being asked to, in terms of a production, it wouldn't be that much. I think, we would have to really leverage some of the local schools' dance or other cultural programs we have within the city. So that'd be a great opportunity for us as the council to get out there and meet some of these individuals that maybe we don't know, maybe we do, to try to encourage some of their students, teachers, or people that are involved to be part of it. I think the real goal, other than giving money away, I think that's a good one, is also the development of the two individuals, well, all the people that participate, but the two individuals that win, we can leverage them throughout the year. So that will give them exposure not only to us, the council, and other members of other councils and politicians within Revere, but we can also have them meet the community. So it's not just a monetary prize, it's also giving them a development. So I would propose, I'd say 2 hours, depending if we had 20 contestants. If we had less than that, we could probably do it a lot shorter. But looking at what the programming is in some of these events that are in the city, there is sometimes a little bit of open space. So I was hoping we would wiggle in and get that so that we wouldn't have to pay a lot of the fees that you mentioned.
And built into the 2 hours, is there other entertainment as the contestants are changing into?
Absolutely.
Okay,
And we could leverage, again, some of those same groups that have been participating at these events. So it wouldn't just be an event that is just for the contestants, it would really be a community event.
thank you.
You're welcome. So then I look at my proposal, and I'm like, for the pageant person, I left out a lot of stuff. I was like, this is just your little nugget before I have my full PowerPoint presentation with everything, right?
I like logistics,
You
right?
do, no, this is why we're teams, right? So I think we can, if we were to do it, again, I think the real resource, I love pageants, I think that's clear, just for those people out there, but I think it's also great to have a positive role model from the community for our young people and our adults to see, and to help put hands on the community and get what we do out there, because that could be a big part of what their year is like. Hey, why don't you apply for a grant, and then next year we could sit here and have 100 of these.
Another interesting concept that fires off of this, I like this because it harkens to the old days of Revere Beach, basically, when it was an amusement pier or destination thing. But I was interested possibly in doing a senior category in which old age facilities too could have their Mr. and Mrs. Revere Beach, or Miss Senior and Senior, that they speak to a different era, different time period, that could lack in or could elucidate on, the history. It's not just where the future is, but it's also the history that we're, as a cultural committee, that we're embracing.
I think that's a great idea. I've done similar programs like that. I think maybe we would adjust that to be more accessible, so maybe it would be more of a modeling outfit and a conversation, because I think when we're thinking about people that are, you know, our wonderful elderly population, there might be some other, you know, logistical issues that might prevent people from being able to perform, but we could maybe make that optional. But yes, I think that would be a great idea. So in the past, again, for the record, I was involved, I've won the East Boston, it was the East Boston Columbus Day pageant. It is no longer that. But it had divisions from tiny or little all the way up to Miss. So if we wanted to make that a goal for down the line, that we make this even more accessible, I think that would be a good goal. But I think to your point, having this division and also having a senior division probably wouldn't be that much of a reach. Even if we did the senior program at one of the senior centers, which some of my title holders have done all over the state. So my Miss Massachusetts and Miss Massachusetts teen have gone to several around May. There's usually a bunch of proms that happen at a lot of senior centers, and they go and they help facilitate a program similar to that. So we could, if it doesn't, if it can't be on stage for whatever reason, I think we could find a way to make it happen, and then utilize them during the production as well. So I think what I was looking for was a little bit of a go-ahead that we were interested, so that I could then come back with a much more detailed plan. That will include all those logistics.
So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to sponsor this. So the Cultural Council would be sponsoring this with the funds that were allocated. We can put 5% away, I believe, for one of our own events. This would be the event that we would be sponsoring. So I'll go ahead and motion that, if anyone wants a second mine.
I second the motion to reserve our 5% of 2025 grants towards this Cultural Council program.
Savannah, we're going to be talking about logistics, looks like.
Yay!
Yay!
Also, for the people who have showed up, just so you know, we took a brief look at the Excel spreadsheet. We're not going to go through each individual project tonight. The last thing that we have on our agenda is just the changes to the CASL system. I'm just going to pull up the email just to speak a little bit more on that. So from the Mass Cultural Council, they just let us know that they've updated their contract and payment process. They're preparing the contract materials for our Cultural Council in our allocation. And we just need to provide a couple more documents the way that it stands right now. I'm gonna go ahead, that being said, I think we can go ahead and open it up to the public, if you guys are okay with that. Unless there's anything else we wanna add.
The big thing that I had on agenda could be tabled to the next meeting too, is just said promoting ourselves within the community and tying into the community at large. Like I said, it's great to have a small amount of proposals, but every community, like I said, I don't think that everybody in Revere knows who we are, what we are. And we discussed this last year. You know, most events that happen that are sponsored by the Mass Cultural Committee have that on their banner or someplace placed on that. So the first one that we're sponsoring, it will have that on the banner, but also expanding our social media presence. And social media presence is not recreating a wheel. It is a proven fact that the more postings you have or the more comments you have, The more public you become, the more feedback you'll be getting. So it's important that we do get feedback, and we're just not a adjunct kind of committee that operates apart from the community. We are part of the community, and we're interested in meeting, greeting, and as Rocky said, getting out there in the community and being present at their events and seeing what events we've sponsored. So that is a big thing of expanding our media, social media presence. And it's to kind of, like I said, nothing new. It's what other social councils do, is just say when the grants are, what events we've sponsored, who's gotten one, and even some pictures from events, and we'd like to hear from you type things.
Would it be possible, I'm assuming there's an Instagram page, I haven't looked, so that's on me, bad Rocky. I know in some other organizations, both professional and private, that especially around intern time, like around summertime, that there are a lot of, we can tap people on the shoulders, like students that may want to manage a social media account, because that's becoming a real career now, where people can go into being an influencer. So perhaps, to your point, to increase that, we might be able to find a resource that could help us with that. And set clear guidelines, we can manage the page, obviously, but, you know, there are a lot of people, young and old, whatever age they are, that really want to get into that type of marketing, and it is it's a very important skill to have if you're going to promote any event, so maybe that's something that we could do, and that would also get us another person that might be interested in seeing what we're all about.
I think last year when we discussed this, something that we talked about was maybe putting up some flyers within the school. As a Revere public school employee, I can't do that. But if somebody's interested in making that flyer and putting it up, I'd be happy to chat with the principal about it.
I can make the flyer. Absolutely.
And then, yes, we do have an Instagram, we do have a Facebook. It's not super updated at the time, of course. I don't have the Facebook password. I think that there's another council member that was on it previously that might have it. But the Instagram I do.
Most young people only use Instagram anyway, so if we were to have a good presence on Instagram, I think that that would be a great starting point.
I think the other thing is too, to your point, Rocky, is that for a lot of councils, and I think for a lot of organizations, they just have one person doing social media. I think before on the Cultural Council, we had a secretary, we had a chair, we had a co-chair, and I think that maybe that's a position that we have even within the council. We could have another person doing that. I don't know if they could get paid for it. That's my only thing.
Well, I think is looking at a lot of programs that have like course credit or special projects for managing programs like this. So that's why I thought, you know, students at first, because I think that there are many colleges and or high schools that say, hey, if you work on this particular project, you get credit. So that might be something worth exploring. I'm not as well versed on that, but I've seen it happen in other places. So we wouldn't have to pay them.
And then there's also civic duty. A lot of communions now, or a lot of churches too, as part of their communion rights, just say participate in a project that either you propose or somebody else has proposed to help out the community at large. It can be anything from painting a room to working in a soup kitchen, but they're supposed to do a community-based project. As civic duty is, like I said, it's not a punishment. It's, you know, kind of part of them, to be involved and feel involved. And I believe that, you know, the high school council, they sent representatives to the council meeting and said, we'd like to become involved in different projects. And the more that you involve tomorrow's leaders, the more that they'll be involved tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that there might be opportunity for us to reach out to their student senate. I think that those might be the people. If that conversation's over, is there anything else that we want to add? I think that we can go ahead and open it up to the public. If anyone wants to come up and share anything. All right, we're gonna go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for watching.
Before,
Oh,
can we set expectations on reviewing the grants? Yeah, so we should have it for the next meeting, or what would be the plan? You're ready to bang that gavel. Should we say that maybe we focus on the first, because it is quite a bit of reading, and for people to, maybe we do the first 15 at the next one, and then the next 15 at the December meeting? Would that be a fair, or the rest of the submissions? I don't know how you all have done it in the past, that's why
I think in the past that we've normally just done it in one stretch.
Okay.
But it is a lot to do it in one stretch, so
Right.
I think that that would be a really good idea to
So
split it up like that.
so what are we at? We're at 31, so why don't we say 1 to 15, we should all review and come in with our recommendations?
Yes, I think for us to comb through 1 through 15 is something that we can do. However, we should, prior to coming to that meeting, have looked through all of them.
Right,
Because we
right.
don't want to,
Yeah, if we get through all 15 in 10 minutes, we can keep going, but let's set the plan that everything should be reviewed with the focus on 1 to 15, the first 15 applications, and then we could if we don't get through them all,
sure.
the next meeting in December, we could do 17 through 31, or sorry, 16 through 31.
Yes.
Okay. You can bang the gavel now.
Nope. Not yet. We do have Steve Marabito in the audience today, and I don't want to kind of put you on the spot. But there is a lot of cultural events that go on within the city for different cultural groups. And just, we are a cultural committee, so just how does the mayor's office plan cultural events for different cultures in the city? If you could talk to that, or...
So as far as cultural events, are you talking about public events, private events?
Public events.
So public events are usually through the DEI office, or if there's an organization in the city that wants to put on a flag raising, they'll come to our office and we'll work with them. But as far as cultural, we really don't have, the main one we have a lot of them, actually. We have the multicultural, most of the nonprofits work in collaboration with the city, I would say, if that makes sense.
Is there a timeline for that or anything? Because let's just kind of
No.
bring up a few, like you said.
Not really, because
had-
usually the grants that, so for instance, most of the grants these are reimbursement grants, so anyone who apply, if you're talking about departments, I think we heard a little bit about departments applying for grants. I think there's that expectation that they're not going to be paid out until the event happens because it's based on a reimbursement. So I would assume that time isn't of the essence.
That's what I was going to bring up to my council members, was that there are reimbursement grants on there from different city departments for different things. And like I said, we have the flag raisings. It seems like there was another flag raising this year, a different cultural group raised the flag.
Correct. So a lot of that, some of that would come out of the DEI department, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department.
And then the flag raising, then we had Italian-American celebration that just passed recently. So how do the two differ? Is it just scope of?
So for instance, say if you have the Latinx community of Massachusetts, their organization, they want to do, say, 6 flag raisings. They'll come to our office, and they've been doing it for the past 5 years, and they want to sponsor it. So they come to our office, and basically they already have the flag. They provide the speakers as far as food and entertainment. They usually get sponsored entertainment, or they pay for it out of their organization, or if there's something specific, if they ask us, if we have the resources, we can help and pay for it as well. But we have limited resources, so.
And the publicity for those events, usually I find out about those events the day after as opposed to the day of.
So what we can do is, there's a ton of events in general. We can definitely link you guys in if you want. If that's the will of the council, I can definitely do that.
I just wanted to check, because I think we had discussed this before. There is a calendar somewhere.
There is. So
There
if you
is.
go on Google and just type in Revere calendar events, or if you go on revere.org and type in events, it will show up, and they'll go in according to, in chronological order of the day, so.
And then just checking, I know that some other city organizations, they have a newsletter that gets sent out before. Do we have anything like that for DEI or no?
We don't.
Okay.
As of right now, we're a two-person team trying to organize everything. And our sole responsibility isn't just events. We also deal with policies. We deal with working with other departments to deal with inclusivity. So it's not just, a lot of people just think we handle flag raisings and cultural events, but there's a lot more to the job. It's more involved than people think.
Well, thank you also for all the work that you do.
Thank you, and I think you guys have some ideas. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said you want to be out there in the community and promote a lot of cultural events. And I think one thing you guys should look into is working with the Human Rights Commission, the Public Arts Commission. I think they can get you started, even having a gala to honor recipients. Anything like that, I think you should do some kind of promotion in that sense to have maybe an annual gala. So that would definitely create a buzz.
Do they have separate calendars, or is that all in the inclusive?
So every event that is, every department that has an event, usually the private events, like even like say HYM development site down by Suffolk Downs, they have an event this weekend for dogs, like a aquatics event tournament. That's a private event, but they can request, they can submit an event. Citizens can submit their event online, and then someone would approve that and add it to the calendar. Obviously, the reason for the approval is to make sure it's an appropriate event and it's not something obscene, you know. But as far as departments, if the Parks and Rec was having an event, like they have Barktober coming up and they have Fright Night, if the library's having an event and having a haunted, like for Halloween, I forgot what the event is, they'll submit it online, and all on the calendar of events will show every event that is submitted. But all the department heads are told to submit an event. So what the rule of thumb is, we usually submit the details of the event to 311 and then follow up with a calendar invite. So.
Lonnie, are our events on 311? Or the ones, the grant proposals that we have accepted for the past year?
Those ones aren't on 311 to my knowledge, no. To my knowledge, no, those aren't on 311. Not all of them. I think that the reason why, I could be wrong, but I think that the reason why is because not all of them are hosted in Revere. As I've gone back and forth in email exchanges, sometimes a person proposes a certain date and then the venue falls through. That happens a lot more than you'd think. I wonder if they can submit to 311. They might be able to do it themselves. I don't know if we as the council can do that. A lot of the dates even that they've proposed in here, They're just kind of general guidelines. But also thinking about that, that might be a good idea to do for our proposal for Miss and Mr. Revere Beach, once we nail down those logistics.
Absolutely.
And then is there a list at City Hall or anything that we know of just public spaces that are available for any kind of assembly or if you wanted to do a program, what is available? You know, so we mentioned DCR, what it would take to those locations to be available. We have a lot of buildings that are being built here. You know, do they have public spaces that are now available to the public to use or just residents within that building? And if so, do we anticipate more proposals from people in that residences, just like Suffolk Downs as a community?
So here in Revere, we're lucky to have good neighbors. So, for instance, if you were looking to use a community room in one of the apartment buildings, we could talk to management and ask if they'd be more than willing to help out. HYM, they're usually always very helpful as well down by Suffolk Downs, even a lot of the local venues, so.
And like I said, the Suffolk Downs, they're building green spaces too.
Correct.
The availability of the green spaces, is it only
Yeah.
available to the buildings themselves, or is it available to
Like I said, they're
community
very,
large?
very generous and with helping out and providing space with us. They've been a good team player with the city.
Those are two factors, space and time.
Yeah. But if you guys have something in the works, an event, feel free to reach out to our office. We can help facilitate.
I don't think that currently there does stand a list of, like you said, open venues or places, but in the past, when people have reached out, I've tried to connect them with other council members or even with Steve himself. And then I think that that person or those people have gotten they've gotten some sort of venue, so.
Yeah.
it's
Don't
been
get me
pretty
wrong,
successful.
if you're renting out a ballroom, they're not going to give you it for free, you know. They can't gift a ballroom. There's guidelines on ethics as well, so.
No, I'm just talking about, in general, like the Garfield School is set up as a community center, or part of it is a
The school is
community center.
another, the school is, so the gymnasium, it's like, are you talking about a community room, after hours?
I'm
So
talking
there's
about
so
just
many
like the
different
like
factors.
the auditorium.
We can talk about this all night long, but there's so many different factors about venues. So I think if you have something, if someone has something, recommend them that they call me or email me and I'll help facilitate. That's the best I can do. There's so many what-ifs and so many hypotheticals that I'm just going to be going circles, so.
Well, thank you, Steve, for your insight.
I know that Steve's come up here a couple times already, but I just want to open it up to the public if anyone wants to speak at this time. And then, is there anything else that we want to add tonight?
No, ma'am.
All right. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to bang the gavel this time. I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, guys.